Hello, welcome to my video, Easy Backgrounds. I've cut everything else out. You only get the best bits of painting backgrounds, and I'm going to show you, I think, 3 or 4 different types of backgrounds. So here we go. I'm going to start with the sky. You need a flat brush, 3/4 inch flat or bigger. You can get them from Home Depot. And you need French ultramarine blue, titanium white, and alizarin crimson. The brush needs to be a flat of whatever size. A round just won't do the job. It just won't cover. For a greenish background for roses or other plants or flowers, I like to use French ultramarine blue, primary yellow, and titanium white. They will mix to give you a variety of different greens. For neutrals, I've chosen French ultramarine blue, raw amber, and titanium white. And from these 3 colors, you can get a surprising variety of shades of the darkest dark to the palest grey, or even just plain white. A sky makes a great background for a lot of things, whether you're doing an architectural type painting or whether you're doing plants, flowers, whatever. And I'm starting off with a pale blue with French ultramarine blue and titanium white. And the sky actually is darker at the top of the dome. But I'm starting off, I'm going to paint my canvas with this paler blue, and it will show a lot of brush strokes in it. So at the end, because I like my brush strokes to disappear, I use a powder brush, which I get from the dollar store. I buy them like 4 or 5 at a time. And I will, using a circular motion, blend my brush strokes away. That's a personal like. You might like to see those brush strokes. A lot of people do. And I just don't. So I blend mine away. But it's up to you what you do with your painting. It also helps if you've got a fair amount of water on your brush, because that helps the paint spread, doesn't it? And because, I'm using acrylic paint on a 9x12 canvas panel. And that canvas actually soaks up the paint pretty quickly, and it is acrylic so that it dries quite quickly. So I find using plenty of water helps things along. As I said, I get my powder brushes from the dollar store, and they work very well for this type of thing. They're soft, they're fluffy, they've got quite a large area to them. I find they do well. I start off my clouds with straight titanium white, and if I don't get enough on at first, then I just put a second layer on. And clouds look quite good with thick paint, I find. They have a shadow underneath them. I'll show you how I do the shadow. I use alizarin crimson mixed with the French ultramarine blue, and that gives me a sort of mauvey color, which I put at the base of the cloud, and then I blend it in with my powder brush, and I think my clouds look pretty good. I'm just daubing the paint on as thickly as I can. I like my clouds to look as though they have some dimension to them. They're thick, fluffy clouds. So for the underneath shadow of the cloud, I use a tiny amount of alizarin crimson, which I mix into the pool of blue that I have on my palette. And I just put it underneath the cloud. I'm careful where I put it. You can go to town and dab it all over the place and get some really intricate looking clouds. But I'm happy if I've got something that's fairly basic and looks pretty good. And I always blend it with the powder brush. And as I said, I'm happy with my clouds. I might blend it a little more than that. It sometimes takes me a little while. I'm going to show you my absolute favorite background for my roses, and other flowers. I really love to have a soft, natural, greenish background. But I might not reach there at the very beginning because I want to show you how you can make a background evolve from one thing, metamorphose into something entirely different. So you'll see as we go along. I'm starting off with primary yellow on one side of the canvas and French ultramarine blue on the other, and you'll see what happens. As the blue mixes with the yellow, it gives you a nice green. If you add titanium white to it, first of all, it makes the paint opaque, and then it also lightens, and you can get this lovely sort of misty background, which you can pull your brush through and make leaf shapes without adding any more paint to the canvas. I just love this particular background. It always evolves into something unexpected, something a little bit different. It's never the same twice. Now I don't care for the brush stroke, so here I go with the powder brush, and I just use circular movements to blend that green, yellow and blue all together. It might end up quite green, but that's okay by me. And really, I always think backgrounds come down to personal taste. It's what you like. It's your painting. You know what you're going to do on that background. You know whether you want more contrast or less contrast, more color or less color. It's all down to personal taste. I'm using the flat of my brush just to pull in some leaf shapes here. They won't really show in the painting, they just add texture to the background. As I said, I'm not adding any extra paint to my brush, I'm just pulling in the paint from different areas. The green into the blue, the green into the yellow, or the blue into the yellow. Now I think that's a good background for a rose, but if I didn't like it, I could blend it out easily as I'm doing here. I could add more color. I could do almost anything. Even from this point, when I have all this paint on my canvas, I could change the color of it. I'm going to show you how. You can do pretty much anything at this stage. You can use your brush horizontally. You could do sort of crisscross strokes. You're pretty much just moving paint around, and it depends what kind of brush stroke or lack of brush stroke that you want, on which paint brush you use, whether you use a powder brush, a big soft fluffy brush, or whether you use a bristle brush or tack-on brush. Really, it all comes down to the brush and the amount of paint that you have on the canvas. I really like soft backgrounds that have a sort of leafy shape in them. You don't see it in the painting, in the final painting, but it's there. It adds texture, little glimpses of leaves, things like that. You don't have to stick to the 3 colors for the background. You can add other color. I'm using alizarin crimson to add a hint of pink. You could have you could add a purple. You can make a purple, or if you've got one straight out of the tube that you particularly like, you can add that. Just hints of other color add depth and interest to the painting. As I said, you can blend or not. It's all down to your personal taste. I love these soft backgrounds, so I usually do blend. Not always, but I usually do. Now perhaps you decide that's too dark. You can always add titanium white to it. It adds a level of opacity. It makes things look misty. And that's a nice look too. I will very lightly blend this. Not necessarily. Sometimes I like to see a brush stroke. But it all adds another level. It's another thing that you can do. You can always change your mind when you're working with acrylics. That's the lovely thing about acrylic paint. You're not stuck with anything. If you decide that you don't like something, you paint over it. That works. There you go, I'm blending. I'm going to add some raw umber and French ultramarine blue, mix them together with titanium white to make a grey, and I'm going to do a grey over this greenish board. And you'll see how it will change the background to a misty grey because of the titanium. And using this grey, I'll have an entirely different background without taking any paint off, no washing it under the faucet. No scraping paint off the board, just adding different color. It's acrylic, it dries. I should say that I never buy a tube of black. I always mix my darkest dark from raw umber and French ultramarine blue. And as you can see, it gives you a very dark, almost coal colored because of the blue in it. I always think coal was a little bit blue. And the more titanium you add, the paler it becomes, obviously. And you can get a whole range of greys from this mixture. I don't buy grey either. I just use these three colours, raw umber, French ultramarine blue and titanium white, and I mix up whatever dark or light grey I need. So for this background, I'm giving you a very neutral grey, and you can do a lot of things on grey. It's not my favourite background. I have used it before, and it does contrast nicely and make things very vibrant. If you put a pink rose on it, say, or whatever you want, it can look lovely. It just depends. It's just not my favourite. I will say that you can get a lovely range of greys from these three neutrals. You can go from a cool grey, a blue grey, to a warm grey with the raw umber. You can even add raw sienna in there and it will warm the grey up no end, and it will still be called a grey. I first swirled the white into the grey, and now using a separate brush, another dry brush, I'm swirling the grey into the white. It sort of blends it a little bit better that way, I think. I think that all of this is a matter of personal taste. Some people will absolutely loathe this. I like it. I feel that you can get quite a lot of depth into a neutral canvas, and it adds a good background to something more vibrant in the way of a subject. Now I'm going to warm this up a little bit with hot pink straight from the tube. I've not mixed it with anything, and I'm just lightly brushing it on with a crisscross stroke, and I'll blend it with a blending brush. If you used all your blending brushes and you don't have a dry one, you can wash it out and dry it with a hairdryer if you have one of those. That's a handy tool to keep around whether you're doing any kind of acrylic or watercolor painting. You almost always need a hairdryer to dry off your page so you can add more paint. And it works for these brushes too. I rinse them out in soapy water. I rub them thoroughly on either paper towel or a microfiber cloth, whatever I have to hand. And then I dry them with my hairdryer, and they're ready to go. Here are some of my flower paintings. Now, it's not so much about the flowers as the background. So look carefully at the background and you'll see how I've done some quite plain, quite neutral, and others are very colourful. It's all about how I feel on the day and my subject matter. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, please leave a like and subscribe and share with your friends. That helps my channel grow, and I'd really appreciate it if you could find time to do that. And thank you very much for watching, and thank you so much if you've already subscribed. I very much appreciate that. That is so helpful. And I'll see you again next time. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think a little video on paint brushes and how you use them, and paint colors, and that might be helpful to some people. So I hope you'll join me for that, and I'll see you next time. Bye for now.